Hi, everyone. I just wanted to get you started a little bit right on time. So I want to make sure that everything was done there. And I want to let you know that we're actually going to be recording this meeting. So any questions you have will be awesome. It'll be very helpful for people who were not able to attend the meeting because our webinar software does have a cap. And I'm going to do a couple things different. So we're going to be I'm going to try to share some things live, so you guys can actually see how things are done and how I actually handle certain situations. And here's the little tip for you that if you're attending late, you wouldn't have heard right off the bat. But I don't actually post when I'm posting. So I actually do some scheduled posts. So the McCormick Center's social media is not always as live as it appears that it is. All right, so let me get started with tips and tricks for better social media photos. And I want to thank you guys for attending this webinar. I know you have busy schedules and you had to break that little hour and a half off to be able to attend today. And I do appreciate it because I do think this is an important piece of what's going to be going on, and especially right now and in the future. So how we're going to be reaching our parents and the people who are involved in our programs and our situations. So let me start off with that. So thank you once again. Let's see if I got my PowerPoint to slide. I'm not a good PowerPoint user, so you have to bear with me here. So getting done with that, welcome a little bit, but I wanted to show you the agenda and actually go through a couple of the things that we're going to be covering today. And I'll let you know right now that this is a topic that I'm very passionate about. So I could easily run past the time as far as this agenda goes, but this is my best guess at how long it'll take us. And we'll be covering some welcome introductions, and we'll do a little activity. The activity actually involves the next part as well. So how do I use the Zoom software, so the software you're actually connected to right now, to interact. Then we're going to be talking a little bit about why I want better social media photos. So what's the reason behind even having a webinar and why you guys actually attended this? And then I'm going to start off with our tips. So I'm going to go through tip 1, adjusting the exposure and the focus. Tip 2 will be turning on the grid and improving the composition in your photos. And then we're doing a little trick. So I'm uploading my photos in a right size and format for each social media outlet, and it doesn't matter if it's Facebook, if it's Twitter, if it's Instagram. So we'll talk a little bit about the sizing on those. Then another trick: how do I deal with fast-moving subjects? And all of us have to deal with that at some point because children are a fast-moving subject. So we have to be able to get them focused and get the shot taken as quickly as possible. So how do we deal with that? And maybe I'll talk a little bit about lower light situations, so indoor and that kind of thing. So we'll maybe throw a little extra trick in there. And then finally will be one of my favorite tips and tricks. I think it's kind of both of those. It's using Adobe's Spark Post. And don't worry, I like using free things, and this one is also free for us. So it's actually that last little piece. I put a little wrap up section, so we'll talk about those little pieces, and then we'll adjourn at hopefully 2:30, and I'll be done with everything by then. One thing I will point out before we go on is that I would rather have questions asked at the point, because usually it doesn't interrupt what I'm talking about. So let's address them if it's involving maybe tip 2. So we'll actually address those situations as they come up. So I'm going to move on from the agenda because we are packed and short on time. So we'll move on from there. So let me introduce myself. My name is Giovanni Arroyo. I'm the media specialist here at the McCormick Center. It was originally going to be social media specialist, but we decided not to call it social media specialist in case the name changed. It would help out with our HR. And so I dropped the social part of it and just stuck with the media specialist. But initially, it really was the social media specialist. So that's kind of my background here. I've done technology trainings for, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years at least in there. So that's another half of what I do. And basically everything electronic that you've seen up to this point has come from me, whether it's social media, whether it's the website or emails. And unfortunately, you guys get to curse me out for the emails I'm sending, but those are actually coming from me. So I'm the contact person that's filling up your inbox. So that's me. And then I'm gonna flip the slide, and our newest staff member is Kelly May. And Kelly actually is not, you won't hear her unless she talks really loud. She's sitting across from me, but you may see her later on. With this, they won't switch over to her video feed unless I turn off my sound. So that's kind of the piece that's happening right now. But Kelly's our newest staff member here at the McCormick Center, and she's going to be handling the communication of social media and the graphic design from this point on. But she just started less than 2 weeks ago, so we're going to take it easier on her to get started. But she's going to be helping out, and she'll be the person you'll be chatting with if you use that function in Zoom. So she'll be actually the person handling that, and she'll also be the person who's drawing my attention if we have a question that needs to get answered right now. So go ahead and ask those in the chat. All right, so those are our introductions. Most of you have probably taken the training with the McCormick Center, so you actually know a little bit about us and what we do and our focus on the leadership end of things. I do trainings for social media that actually involve a bigger span than just the leaders of a program. Might involve a administrative assistant that you have, a staff member they might have as well. So hopefully that kind of wraps up what I do and what we do here at the McCormick Center. Okay, I'm hopefully gonna have a piece of a glass here because I'm from Chicago and I talk really fast. So hopefully we can get past that. But remember, we're gonna be recording this, so if there's something that I talked a little bit too fast about, we can go back and cover it in a later time when we're watching the video. So that'll be a nice, as far as that goes. I'm nodding my head and doing whole bunch of things, realizing that you guys can't even see me yet. So sorry about that. And the last kind of piece that I'll talk about here is how do I actually use my software? How do I use this Zoom webinar software so I can actually interact? Because I do enjoy and like the interaction there. And it's sometimes a little hard with the webinars. So let's talk about that a little bit. This top right-hand screen, and hopefully it's showing up on the right-hand side for you guys, I'm not mirrored, is gonna actually make us a full screen. So it'll actually open up our webinar software so we can actually take up our full desktop. So pretty simple, pretty common as far as that goes. So you'd actually see that in there. And then you guys also get to see me in a better view of who I actually look like or who I actually am. Okay, if you had any audio problems, you may want to try attending via your phone. Right now I'm using computer audio, and you're just as capable of doing that. Zoom is actually pretty good about that, but there is call-in numbers and meeting IDs. They may not be accurate right now, but you do have a call-in number that I sent you earlier. So you'll be able to attend by phone along with computer audio, either or. If you want to be muted, I actually placed us all on mute right off the bat. So we should be muted as we're going along right now. But if you want to unmute or I call you out for some reason, and not in a bad way, in a good way usually, we're going to press this button down here and you'll be able to unmute yourself. And you're going to see a microphone with a line over it that's showing you're muted right now. If you press that same button, you're going to be able to bring up that and unmute yourself. And then I'll be able to hear you, which will be awesome. So right now I can't. So moving on from there. The video feed, and all of us should have our video also crossed off right now. And video is not live for most of you right now. So I'm not watching you, so no worries there. So you don't have to cover up your video camera at all. But you can actually show me what you look like, so it'll help me out a little bit to seeing those lovely faces along with the voice talking out there. And that's by doing the same thing, pressing that button, and the video will be live. So I'll be able to see that from there. All right, going on to probably maybe the most important piece, but that's going to be the chat. And this is where Kelly's going to be helping me out a little bit. But you can actually hit this button and bring up a chat box to be able to discuss. You can actually talk to other participants, but the most important one will be sending Kelly. So make sure you're selecting her on that list. So Kelly, she's K May 8. Yep. So that's who the person is going to be that you're going to actually be selecting on there. And she'll be able to filter any questions on and she knows the agenda. So she knows what I'm going to be talking about in the future. So maybe it's something we're going to cover in a short period of time. So she'll be able to handle all that as far as the chat goes. And you'll see that's that spot. You can send it to everybody, which is fine, not a problem there. If you want it to be more private, then you send it to Kelly, and that's KMA8 again, instead of sending it off to everybody. But there's times that maybe the other participants know or have the same kind of question and just are not entering it in the chat, or you beat everybody to it, which is it's just fine as well. And you might want to send that question out publicly, and then we'll get that addressed as well. Okay, so we're gonna get into a short warm-up activity. And you want to enter in the chat, and if you forget, that's right down here. And so it's simple to find. But what do you use to take photos? So this is going to be kind of me sending out a query to you guys and wondering, what do you use to actually take those photos? And I'll ask for Kelly's help. So what do you see so far?
Phone. Lots of phones.
Oh, awesome. Do we have anything other than the phones yet?
Tablet, digital camera from Sue. And I think that's it. She also said phone or iPad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's awesome because the phone and iPad and any iPhone, anything you have, it's actually a really, really good camera. And it is something that even as a photographer, I can rely on as a backup. Because I can take pretty close to the same photo with my phone or camera. It might not be as big. It may not be anything that's print worthy, but for the web, for social media, yeah, you guys are relying on the right tools, and making sure that, we have our phones and they're with us all the time. And honestly, the best camera we have is that one that's actually able to be used. And I'm able to whip out my iPad, my phone, and be able to take a photo way quicker than I can by getting out my camera bag and making sure my lens is right and everything's set up on there. So yes, great answers there. And hopefully at the same time, you picked up how to use the chat a little bit. So Kelly's able to see those messages, and it was great feedback for us. Okay. This was probably a hangover slide from last year, talking about where we were from, because I had a lot of non-Illinois attendance. But do we have anybody from outside of Illinois right now? I think Sue, I emailed you earlier, so I think you're outside of Illinois.
Yes.
And then
well, Cheryl said yes, Hawaii.
Oh, just Hawaii. That's nice. I want to visit you, Cheryl. So we got to figure out a way to go there.
Brittany said currently in Wisconsin.
Okay.
And is that Dilma? South Florida.
Wow. Okay. So we got a big spread there. We have most of the nation covered there. So thank you guys for attending, and hopefully the time-wise is not too bad for you guys. Hopefully you're not taking up too much of your lunch for you guys. Was just Cheryl out in Hawaii there. So.
Oh, we got somebody from Colorado too.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, they're probably lunchtime too. So yeah. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to mess up your lunch, guys. So I'll be going on from there, because the next thing we need to talk about is why I do want to take better social media photos, and why I would spend some time on a webinar like this. And that is because we know that people pay attention to our photos. And on social media, photos end up being the second most viewed thing. Videos, which you'll be able to use a lot of tips and tricks towards, so especially the composition and that kind of thing, you'll be able to use those towards your videos. But we know that basically a text-only update, any information like that, just gets lost. And people do not pay attention to it the same way they would as if you included a photo. And even better, and a lot of you guys have this ability, it might be tagging a parent that is friends with you on Facebook already, or friends with your Facebook page, or along that line. So you have some of those abilities on there, but it is always a better choice to include a photo. And I'm going to show you how to do that really simply. It's almost a non-status update if I don't include a photo in it. So, that's definitely something we want to do and stick out there. Does anybody know why we want to stick out on or include a photo, and how it actually impacts what we do? And Kelly, I'll open this up to you too, because you'll be getting into this soon. No answers yet? Nobody willing to dive. Oh, there we go. I thought I saw something pop up.
More shares and reach from Bridget. That's pretty much what I would say too.
Yeah, Bridget, it's actually leading to that. But if we look at a timeline, and this doesn't matter what social media feed except for Pinterest, but let's say it's a Twitter or Facebook, and we're looking at the timeline in there, you see a lot of things that are text and another text update, maybe another one from there. If you throw a photo in there, it is really simply breaking up that timeline, and people tend to stop and look at that. So they're more likely to share and make a comment on it, anything that's involving engagement towards that, because you have that photo and you're breaking up the timeline. You're not going to be the person lost amongst that stream, because it happens really fast. Twitter is notorious for being really a fast-acting social media tool. But same goes for Facebook, same goes for any other social media tool. Like I said, not Pinterest. So that's the one that gets excluded from that. But yes, absolutely. So we break it up, and we're actually getting more reach and more engagement, because we're actually just doing something a little bit different from everybody else. So, including a photo on there. The other piece is that we want to make sure that we're actually showing reality. And I'm using a quote from Robin Williams. It's a late great Robin Williams. However you feel about him, his quote actually works out really well for this. And that's reality, what a concept. So we want to share things that are real and authentic on what's actually going on. So you wouldn't be paying attention to a post if I had a stock photo of, two people, engaged in a book in the office space or whatever. It would not be authentic. But a picture of Kelly, working on a computer may be more authentic.
And Brittany actually said you get more reach by showing emotion. Then I agree with that. I think that kind of goes into what you were saying. Yeah.
So the authentic things, and I tend to not do stage photos a whole lot too. So that goes right into that, and showing the actual emotion involved with that. But if we look at some research and some statistics, we actually have proof. And unfortunately, the closest I can find is a commerce thing, so not directly involved with us, but we're going to be seeing the similar results for our work. But that is that our actual use of a stock photo decreases the amount of engagement that we get. So if we want people to be more engaged and paying more attention and doing stuff, if we have a call to action along with it, and we want them to actually do something, like maybe it's register early. And so that way we get our numbers filled up, and we actually have a better idea for next year instead of those late registrations for at the end of August, which would make things throw things off a little bit, and our numbers would be harder to get. But we actually have research that shows that people actually pay more attention to authentic images and not just stock images. This is another thing that could be. We've all seen this exact stock image. And I'd be really worried about it if you guys hadn't seen it yet. But this image has been used over and over again to mean different things. So your image is actually going to get lost because of the repetition that actually happens with it. So it's a great photo, and there's no question there. But using that stock image, who knows what it's actually used for? And maybe that is something completely opposite of what you meant it to be used for. So that can happen if somebody searched that image, which is not something I really want. So the authentic photos actually work out a lot better than a stock image would. Whew, okay, I think I'm ready, and hopefully we're a little bit ahead of schedule, or not. Am I? Yes, I'm barely ahead of schedule, so that's awesome. So we're gonna talk about our tips, and bear with me here because I'm gonna try to switch over to my iPad. And I'm going to be doing that hopefully live. So you actually get to see what I do for a stock image, or I'm sorry, not a stock image, an authentic image of something, and how I actually go about doing that in the end. So hold on one second. I'm going to see if I can do this switch here. And you get to see me and Kelly a little bit. And then I'm going to switch this piece. Where's my mouse? And let's see if this worked. There you go. Kelly, can you see my
Yes.
My laptop, my iPad? Awesome. Okay, so there may be a little bit of delay when this goes on over what I'm saying, But here is going to be tip number 1. So how do I adjust my focus and how do I adjust my exposure? So first thing I'm going to do is actually go to my camera. And you're going to be seeing this on my iPad. So it's an iOS device, but it's going to be very similar to what it would be on a Android device. It may not be exactly the same, but we'll be able to kind of go in between the two. So we're just basically loading up my camera. So first things first, I'm going to do that. And you can see I have actually Kelly facing on there, so she gets to see that. But on both Android and iOS, we can actually pick our focus point by pointing on the screen. So you can see me touch the screen, and it's going to pick a different focus point. So you can see Kelly is a tiny bit out of focus, and I'm actually going to be able to refocus it. So my ideal spot is actually going to be focusing on her eyes. So if I end up going into it and focusing on her eyes, I get a little bit sharper on that one point. So that's going to be my first kind of tip. So making sure you're actually touching it. And I do this before every photo I take, making sure that it's focusing and not just choosing where I'm focusing. It's actually focusing where I told it to. And I should probably have mentioned it before, but I'm a control freak. So I want the camera to actually do what I tell it to do and be in my control. So that's the very first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to pick that spot out and focus on Kelly's eyes. So you'll see that right in there. So that's picking our focus point. You can see, hopefully, you can see how I'm thing that's showing up. So maybe I want to focus on her pen. And that's how we do that in there. Now, we also want to adjust our exposure. So you can see we're in a darker room. So maybe I do that with picking out the focus, but maybe I need to change it a little bit more. And I'm going to do that very simply by sliding up and down. So you can see that I am very highly exposed right here. So this would be in a darker situation. And maybe I'm overexposed. So maybe I'm outside and I need to lower the exposure down. So if you slide up and down, you'll be able to do that at the same time. And Kelly gets to be a wonderful model for this. I'll let her, she thinks stoic and not moving a lot. So I'm gonna refocus a little bit, and you guys get to see my laptop sitting here. So we're actually gonna be able to do that a little bit, and that's gonna be changing the exposure and focus point. So let's say I want to focus on Kelly's laptop here, and we have that zoomed in a little bit. I'm sorry, not zoomed in, but exposed correctly. I might change my exposure around. Also, Kelly may be in a bad mood, and I want to show that a little bit on her. Sorry, Kelly. And maybe it's a darker scene around her to kind of express that darker mood. So my very first tip is going to be making sure you're focused, and we can easily unfocus with Kelly and not have her in focus any longer. And you see that it really changes things as far as our composition goes and as far as everything else falls. So we want to make sure first things first, things are in focus. And I'm making sure that that part is in focus. Now, I'll let you know that our phones and our tablets are very small sensors, so things tend to be a lot more in focus. So if we're using a DSLR, we have a chance to put things out of focus a lot easier than we would with the iPad or iPhone or Android phone, because the sensors are a lot smaller in there. All right, so that is going to be our little bit on. Oh, you guys get to see my my phone setup. We'll talk about that in a second. The next thing you're going to notice, and holy cow, yeah, sorry about that. I was sending you guys down a wormhole there. The next thing is going to be actually tip 2, and this is turning on the grid. And you can probably see, and especially since Kelly is wearing a black fur here, I can actually show off my grid. Does anybody know why I use this grid when I'm on here? This is not on by default for iOS devices, at least. It is, I believe, on Android, but not on iOS. Nobody's willing to take a stab at it. There's no wrong.
I'll take a stab.
There's no wrong answers. Go ahead, Kelly.
I would say it's probably composition. So you want to make sure you have a good, even composition. Oh, Stacy chimed in and said gold 3.
Yes, somebody hit it right on the head. So Stacy, I'd give you a gold star if we were in person, but I can't do that right off the bat. But Stacy's actually, Kelly was right. It is a evolving composition. But Stacy mentioned the rule of thirds, and that is where our grid is laid out. And I think if I point to the desk here, might be able to see it a little bit better. But you'll see that my grid actually breaks up my composition, and there is going to be 2 lines, but 3 parts for each of these sections. Now, the rule of third states that the cross hatches are our strongest composition. Our eyes are naturally drawn to that. And you may have noticed that even when I was focusing on Kelly, I naturally put her in one of the third locations. I didn't focus right on Kelly, right down the middle. That looks kind of uncomposed. Where if I move her over just a little bit, my composition, my eyes get drawn to her section right off the bat. This also goes with horizons. And unfortunately, in Chicago, we have a cloudy day today, so I'm not going to be able to show the horizon out very well. And plus, it's rainy, and I really don't want to go outside. But if we choose one of the lines, such as you'll see me focus in on here, but maybe the top line or the bottom line, that is putting our rule of thirds for the horizon in one of those places. So our horizon line is crossing there. You'll see typically people tend to be right down the middle with the horizon. I can easily adjust my composition and make it stronger by moving my horizon up or down. So we can easily do that. Put the main focus point in one of the thirds. So maybe we have a child in a classroom, and putting them in one of the thirds, that really makes it stronger. Maybe we have a group. Groups are kind of weird because we end up, if it's a large enough group, we end up putting them across the board. But if we put one of the people that we want to really have attention paid to in one of the thirds, and that's what those actually are called, and that's going to be living in one of the third sections.
Brittany has a question.
Sure.
Whenever you're ready, Brittany.
Yeah, go ahead and turn yourself on.
Or you can type it in the chat. That's fine.
We got video, Brittany, but we don't have audio yet. Let me see if I can help you out there with that. Where's my tab button? Unmute. All right, Brittany, I think I got you back on with the audio.
Okay, I just had a quick question. I never have the grid lines on my phone or anything. So the settings on my thing, it shows turn by 3x3 or square. Which one's better? Does it matter?
I would default to a 3x3. If you have an iOS device, you can actually follow along too. I'm going to show you how to turn on the grid lines exactly like I have. It's not default. But I tend to be going to that 3x3 by default because that breaks things up into the thirds. So I can look at my rule of thirds in there. Square tends to be the composition. If you put things right down the middle, the composition, and have things even on either side, there's some rules that go along with the square. It tends to be a little bit harder for the composition because we're used to that rule of thirds, and our eyes actually go to that. So you have to have a really strong composition for a square thing. So I would practice probably with a third first, maybe experimenting a little bit with the things. The nice part is that we're on digital devices. So if we take a crummy photo, it's deleted. It's that easy. So we can just throw things away. Back in the film days, it would cost us a lot more money to actually do that. And so it's helpful that we actually have these devices and we can actually experiment a little bit and make sure we have things laid out. So hopefully that answered that, Brittany, for you.
I went to the click it because I never used the grid. I never knew why specifically people use it, and now that you tell us why, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to do that now.
Yeah, it's a great compositional tool, and like I said, if you've done this for a long time, you can keep the grid off, and you're pretty close to it anyway. Do it naturally, and but it's helpful even for someone who is doing photographs almost every day. I like having the grid on. It's going to help me out. A little bit of extra tool, and it comes with my camera on there. So let me show you how to turn it on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, question for you.
Yeah, shoot.
For a square, would you use that for Instagram though, or would you prefer like a horizontal one?
Well, Instagram will we'll probably touch on a little bit later,
okay.
But no, it's okay, Kelly. It's a good question. Instagram previously, so we're talking a couple of years ago, Instagram defaulted or always had square. So you always had to crop to a square actual picture. So we had to upload things in Square. Everything was Square on Instagram. They now let you upload things that are portrait or landscape to there. If I'm going to do something on Instagram, it tends to be portrait.
Yeah.
Because it stays, and we'll break into that a little bit later on too, but it stays on screen a little bit longer. Just a tiny bit of an advantage for my picture versus one that's horizontal. So if I can, I will do a portrait, which is going to be the, let's see if I can turn that straight. Yes, I did. So it turned with you guys. So that's going to be the phone kind of look. And then horizontal will be the landscape look. So that's going to be kind of the way to do that. Now, that being said, if you're uploading multiple photos on Instagram, it is going to be defaulting back to Square right now.
Oh, okay.
So if you use their newest tool, which lets you put multiple photos in one post, you actually have to upload them to Square. So it goes back to the old ways. That'll probably change pretty soon, though. I don't think that's going to be a long-term kind of thing. Poor Kelly just happens to be in front of the camera the whole time. So yeah, I'll switch around there. I wanted to show you how to actually change the settings. And we're going to actually go to an iOS device. Like I said, on Android, if I remember correctly, it's going to be on by default, so you might not have to do this. But if you're on an iOS, and this doesn't matter if it's a phone or a tablet, they're both acting the same. We're going to go to our settings. I'm going to press on that. And you're going to see down towards the bottom left, there's going to be one that says camera and video, if I remember correctly. Let me see if I blow by it. I probably did. Let me see on my other side here, so I know I saved it. Where did I say to do that? So it's right below the corner of my TV outpost. There we go. Photos and camera. That's what it says. So we press on that, and you'll notice there's a couple settings on there. iCloud photo library, my photo stream. I don't have a lot of those on right now. I do have the events on, but down here, you'll notice that I have the ability to turn on my grid. And right now, I would have no grid showing. And it's default on iOS devices. So I press this one button, and now I'm showing my grid. So now when I go back to camera, it'll be showing that grid in there from then on. We have some other video options, recording slow motion, that kind of a piece. But it is really going to be that simple to improving your composition. And I think that is going to be our bigger subject. There is going to be multiple composition rules. And I say rules kind of, I almost want to put air quotes around rules, because there's going to be times to break all these rules. As a photographer, I've learned golden ratio. There's a whole mess of other things. There's spiral rules. There's a ton of rules. But there's specific times where I want to break these rules. And one of those might be a square. We talked about that a little bit already, but a square tends to work better if things are symmetrical, if things are going to be even on either side. So that I kind of pay attention to those and know where the photo is intending to go. And that's going to be how I base things on composition. If I'm planning on a photo for Pinterest, I tend to be in portrait mode. I flip my camera around to the side and do that by default. Same thing with the Instagram. It tends to be that way. So do not hold strong and fast to every single rule that you hear about. They're very helpful. And especially starting out, improving them, then you will actually be better off sticking with the rules. Then you'll learn eventually when and how to break them, and how that's making it a stronger composition, and how to actually go into some of those other bits. But for now, turn on the grid, stick with the rule of thirds, and you're automatically going to have stronger and better photos for social media. And it's going to put you one step ahead of somebody else who might be also posting photos up of a classroom, but you have better ones. So it's really that simple. And people surprisingly unconsciously pay attention to that. So that's kind of going into that psychology of people's thoughts. But they will look to that third spot, and actually see somebody's eyes are in focus right there. And that's the person they should be looking towards. Any questions before I go on to my first trick? This is going along better. than I imagine for time. So
Yeah.
none of the questions? Okay.
No.
All right. So we'll break into my first trick, and you're going to see, I'm actually going to show you where I keep this on side, and that's in photos right now. So hopefully we have photos. You'll see a couple of things I have uploaded here, but I want to talk about uploading to the correct size. Now, you're going to see multiple things in here. So there's different cases for each one. So maybe a cover photo, and it might be a profile photo. You know, it could be a header for Twitter. But this little thing is kind of a simple guide to go with. Now, it occasionally changes.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that the Facebook cover photo, the dimensions change to 900 by 300 next time. So they might change that around a little bit. So this isn't a stagnant piece. This isn't always my strongest guide. And I'm not even sure. Yeah, look at it. It says 2015 here. So that's kind of important to pay attention to. So you can see the kind of last time that I've looked at this. But does anybody have a guess as to why it's important to upload correct size towards things? And I bet you know, just it's a subconscious. Don't make me call on people, because I will.
Bridget asked if she could get an email, we can give her an email of the statement.
Yes, absolutely. You're going to have it in a couple different ways. I have it saved, so I will be sending it out with you guys, because I think it's really important that you notice this. And you also have it in the video, so there'll be multiple ways to look at this, Bridget.
Cool. And no one else.
No one else wants to take a guess. All right, I'm gonna have to turn to somebody that hopefully knows for this one. Kelly, you know why you'd want to upload them in this particular size?
Well, so if you upload them at the particular size that they're supposed to be, they're higher resolution, and you get more visibility that way. Am I right?
No. Sorry, I had to put a big X there and say you're wrong.
That's
So
okay.
don't trust Kelly. She knows. I'm joking about that. No, it's actually a very simple thing. So we'll take one of these examples as the cover photo for Facebook. I'm just gonna pick out one, and it'd have to be the first one there. But we can go higher than multiples of this. So let's say we do an 8, or it'd be like 1702 by the 630. So that'd be a multiple of this. So we're timing it by 2. But we're actually not helping our cover photo at all. Mm-hmm. We're increasing the time it takes. So it's taking me longer to upload those photos with the increased resolution. And we're not gaining anything by doing it, because Facebook is automatically decreasing the resolution to 851 by 315. Mm-hmm. So even if we go bigger, we're decreasing that resolution. And that is the best that they ever show it at. So I want to upload a photo. And the nice part is this scale also gives you the, maybe it is going to be 4:3. Maybe it is 1:1. It gives you the kind of crop ratios. And I use that to my advantage because, once again, I'm a control freak. I like to be in control of how I'm cropping mm-hmm. things. And I follow these as kind of a cropping guide as well. Mm-hmm. So maybe I have a very fast internet connection, and the speed thing, I have unlimited data plan. And the speed thing is not the most crucial. I'm not really concerned as much with that. Very helpful, because you got to remember that the big uploads faster. It's taking less of my time, and I can move on to something else. And I know we all have busy schedules, but
yeah. Bridget asked, and I think you kind of answered this a little bit, but she asked if Facebook resizes it, which you did kind of say that. So if you upload it larger, it does end up getting resized to that. Yeah. And
Facebook is really they do a lot of tougher compression onto photos. So if I took it with something that was 16 megapixel, we'll use that just as I'm drawing numbers out of my head here. I don't know what exactly it should be, but they'll decompress it to be a 2 megapixel picture, and then compress it even more from that. So the picture actually looks awful if you upload it outside of their crop ratios and outside of their size wise. So it's very helpful to stick with these, because you do actually actually upload the best quality for each of these. That being said, I'm not perfect with this. So do not only rely on my answers for this. I do tend to do things, maybe it's going to Facebook and Twitter at the same time. I will stick with, maybe it's a profile picture for both of those. They're both square. So maybe I'll upload to 400 by 400 and then call it a day, because I just know Facebook's going to be changing it down to 180 by 180. And each of these, as you look at this guide, is actually a pixel dimension. It's not another number on there. So make sure you know that is pixel, and that gets shortened up in a lot of programs to px. So that's what we're actually looking at here, is the actual pixels on there. One thing to note, if you look at things, is that how small these actual images are. So even some of the bigger ones, Google Plus, I don't know if anybody's actually on there anymore, but a lot of us photographers were. Yeah, photographers tend to like it a lot. But then YouTube. But we have a couple places where, and Instagram is actually a lot bigger than this now. So I'll mention that this 2015, this is a bad example for that, for Instagram especially. But even the ones that they're saying they're bigger are pretty small. When we compare that against my DSLR camera right now, I'm talking about 5,000 by 6,000 pixels at the moment. So we're much smaller, but that's perfect for social media. What are people looking at social media on? Their tablets, their phones, really their phones. And did I say their phones? Because I meant to say their phones. People are paying attention to that, and we're seeing well over 50%. We're talking higher 50s right now on our website. So this is what the McCormick Center's stats actually are. People are using mobile devices even to look at our website. So besides that, those end up being big sizes for the web. So keep that in mind when you're actually doing that. All right. Any questions before I move myself on to trick 2, which is our fast-moving subjects? Okay.
Not yet.
Fast-moving subjects. So you'll see I have a couple daughters there, especially this one. She tends to be a fast-moving subject. She's just got out of our early childhood range, so she's no longer at a early childhood center, but she was at one point.
Brittany said she's cute.
Oh, thank you, Brittany. So thanks for that. But she is a very fast-moving subject. So unlike my older daughter, where I can ask the model and stay more still, I tend not to do that because the stage images look like stock images a lot of times. So you'll even see on my background, might be catching her looking into the camera versus that. But I can get her to stay still. She's very good at noticing when I'm taking pictures, and you notice even Kelly is able to stay still when I'm pointing the camera at her, and she just kind of knows. But my youngest daughter is gonna be so I'm sorry, she just turned 6 in February. So she's a subject that's a lot tougher to handle. She doesn't like to stay still. She wants to keep moving and keep things going. So what I tend to do with that is actually have to act on that fast-moving subject. And there's other fast-moving subjects, if you're out on the street and things. But let's really stick with that early childhood example. And we all know that toddlers, they move fast. It's hard to keep up with the toddlers. They want to go and go and go all the time. So my trick is to kind of look at what the subject is. And Kelly automatically went back up, so we're going to assume that she is a toddler and moving fast because she is my only subject right there. But my trick for that is I'm focusing as quick as possible, and then I'm pressing the button to take the picture as quick as possible. But there's a little trick, especially in iOS, and that's called burst mode. So let's assume Kelly's moving around and I want to get a good picture of her. I'm going to press this shutter button down and hold it. And you see I took, you might not have heard it. You maybe heard it faintly.
It's really light.
Yeah, it's pretty light. But you can see I took now a mess of photos. Oh, I'm sorry, it didn't. I have to show you photos mode. But you see it stacked up here. So I'm actually able to see there's a burst of 10 photos for Kelly. And that's how I can pick out the best of the best. on there. And even if she's a fast-moving subject, I'm able to take the one that's in focus. Maybe even that one little millisecond of a freeze frame might have been enough to actually handle that fast-moving subject. And I'm going to capture her through the whole thing. So I won't make Kelly run in front of me, but it might be that example. And this is especially true if you're out in your playground, in your one of your center areas, and maybe there's a child that you want to get a picture of them riding a bike. But you don't want to stop them from riding a bike because that would just be awkward. And, then you get a picture of them, with the person saying cheese, and they got a fake smile going. And, it's just an awkward picture and will not be improving your social media at all. The parents might like it, but that's going to be about it. But let's say we're showing a little Kelly out on a bicycle, and she's actually pedaling it and going along her way. I'm able to take a picture of that and say, hey, Kelly was active today. She was able to do a whole lot. And even if we're sending reports home, those are strong things. Showing that the child is actually engaged in doing things and, helping out, and they're actually involved with play and then doing that kind of thing. So I know I'm probably driving Kelly crazy here with the picture of
You're
her,
okay.
but that's one of the ways to capture that fast moving subject. Now, looking at our time-wise, we are pretty good with that. So I'm going to share my trick with the low light. So we'll assume, and it's actually pretty low light here. This is actually where our tablets and our phones have the hardest time, is in low light. Our camera would actually have an easier time with this because we can do some things to adjust the low light. But if we fall back and we want to capture Kelly, we're okay light for capturing her here. Not the greatest, but it's not bad. But you see that it's focused off to a wall there. You see Kelly going in and out of focus. I'm going to pick her, and maybe it's adjusting my exposure a little bit. These walls are really a little bit more that way. And to capture that low light thing, I'm actually going to use the same burst mode because our cameras and our tablets and our phones just do not handle the low light as well. So a lot of times in the low light, I have to pick out where I want the camera to focus, or else I'll be searching a lot of times, and when I want it to be shuttered. And a lot of times it is just not a fast enough lens. And what that kind of means is it can handle the low light. It's just not made to handle low light. So I'm going to press that shutter and do burst mode again, just like if she was a fast moving subject. So I'm going to take a bunch of photos and actually be able to pick out which one is in focus and which one it happens from there. Now, that being said, you can also add lights, and automatically people assume that means adding expensive, LED lights or expensive flashes to things. Sometimes that might be just turning on your flash a little bit. I tend not to do this because we actually have too much light in here. So that was on the auto setting. So it turns off automatically. So my iPad actually has a flash on it. But even adding the ability, maybe I asked Kelly, why don't we take a walk outside and do that? And that's going to improve my lighting by just going outside a little bit. So maybe it's a little brighter outside than it is inside. So that'll help her kind of capture that little piece and adding some more light that way. But even you're adding some work lights you have around, or if I move Kelly over to the next chair, that one's actually under the light. So I can actually say, well, maybe you want to do a staged, and maybe there'll be Kelly typing on her computer this time, and that's the image we're going to get. So I'm going to have her move over just one spot and have her under light. So there's multiple ways. And even I'm looking at our room real quick. So this is something I kind of play with all the time. I'm always looking at the light because it's going to be helpful, and who knows when I need to take that photo. But I'm going to ask Kelly to go by the window this time. And you'll actually see that if we point to that, I have a ton more light coming in there, and Kelly would be a lot brighter, and things would be a lot more natural for that. So maybe it's asking that employee to do that if you need to, if you want to capture them doing that kind of thing. A lot tougher with kids. They will tell you no. They're not moving. They don't want to do that now. And that might not be the things, but for their usage, it might be waiting until they're in front of that light. So knowing that my camera is going to be pointing over this way, and I'm going to wait for little Kelly now. I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button there. I was holding the camera. And I'm actually going to say, hey, Kelly, now when we go in front of it, now I can actually capture that picture right when she goes right in front of it, and now I have the light that I was looking for. And it is not going to be a stage photo. I didn't say, Kelly, stand in front of the light. She was naturally going that way. So it's a great way to actually add some realistic bits, and at the same time knowing that my camera can't just handle this kind of thing well. So I'm going to improve it just a little bit. One final thing that I failed to mention for us iOS users, our headphones work as shutters as well. So that might come up with this next little piece a little bit. So I'm going to show you the little tools that I use as we go along here. And you've seen a little bit of the tools just by me moving the camera around. But our if you plug in the headphones, the headphone volume button actually acts as a shutter. And actually, I'm sorry, I put my finger across it. We can actually shutter by pressing the volume buttons regularly on the device. So kind of a neat trick for iOS users. Some Android phones can do the same thing. So I had a LG phone that did the same thing before. So that we would have to look up. And unfortunately, Kelly's our Android person now. So I switched over. So I don't have the latest things that are happening with each of them, but it's really easy, and Google is your friend for that kind of thing too. And so don't be afraid to just do a quick search and find that on there because it is that simple. Okay, so let me show you some of the little tools that I use to help improve my photos. And let me see, we're good with time, so I'm liking that. So I'm gonna bring this over a little bit, and you're gonna see that this is my personal iPhone sitting there. But what I wanted to bring up to you guys was, I'll put this up for a second, you can see it. There's actually two pieces going on. I'm sorry about the blacked out screen. I know that's not exactly perfect yet. But these two things were what was holding my phone up. And there was actually two devices in it. One is a tripod. So this little tripod folds up and is in my bag all the time. So you can see it is actually crunched up right there. And then all I do is, sorry, I'm doing this with like, let me see, I tell you the pointer, there, perfect. So you can see all I'm doing is spreading the legs and going out that way. One of the cool parts is I can actually go and put this close to a chair if I need a little bit more height out of it. There are some of these that actually can do more work as far as this goes. And they're better for being on other things. And I have a couple of those as well. So that's one piece on there. And you can see that it has a standard tripod adjustment on there, or adapter on there. So we can basically put any tripod to that. But my phone doesn't have one living on it. And that's where the other thing comes into play. And that is going to be probably the most expensive because these are ridiculously cheap. We're talking, I think I got this one for free, but I think it's like a couple dollars usually. So you can easily find those on Amazon. There's a ton of mini tripods, and there's not, it doesn't have to be this exact one. There is, I think I have one that folds out and does different things. I think I have these everywhere I go. They're that simple. But this piece is a little bit more expensive. And I said I like free things. This one I found there is plenty of phone adapters around to make them in the tripods, and there's some that are really cheap. But this one does something really neat for me, and that is that it expands. So you see it goes to different sizes. So now I didn't get an adapter for my iPhone. I just got one for this size phone, and I can adapt it, and it sits on the iPhone. And Kelly, probably don't have your phone with you, but if she did, I'd be able to take it and probably put that same adapter on it. And then this screws into my my tripod very easily. And then I'm able to capture those. Remember we said the low light subjects? So this helps a little bit with that. So I'm able to use my headphones to shutter this, and I'm able to be steady. I'm not going to be shaking my camera around. It's actually being held steady with this, and I'm actually able to go in there and actually shutter those little pieces. So it's really cool. I almost done with you, Kelly, holding that.
Yeah, no problem. Oh,
Thank
and Brittany said she had to take a call,
Oh.
so she'll watch the rest of the training later.
Not a problem.
Yeah. Thank you, Brittany.
Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna put this guy off the side. You see, this part actually goes on my keychain. So I have it around all the time, my keychain, and then this piece just goes in the bag. So it's almost with me all the time. So I'm always using that. Now, what I wanted to show you guys was this thing, and I'm holding it upside down. But this is actually primarily intended for video. So it's actually going towards video for the iPad. And I have an iPad Air in this one. It fits for my iPad Pro as well. But it has some other pieces so we can actually put microphones and other lights on it if we wanted to. A whole mess of video things. But the bottom piece is the important part for me. And that is the same thing as you saw this one had on it. And that's really simple. 1/4 by 20 tripod adapter. I'm able to screw this into the tripod, and of course I'm gonna make myself look bad by not screwing it in live. But it actually screws into any tripod, and it doesn't matter if you have one that's sitting around you've had for years with your other camera, and you thought you'd use it, but you never did. So that happens, but we can actually go and set our iPad up on there, and very simple. This piece does cost a little bit more too, but if you want to get serious about video and you have an iPad already, this works out great. And it makes your video a lot stronger. And for anybody who attended Leadership Connections last year, you might have seen us actually using these, because we do actually, I'm talking about things that I'm using in the real world here. So we use these to capture video last year for Leadership Connections, and then showed that at the end of the year, or end of the conference, to be able to address that. So, all right, I'm gonna grab the camera back from Kelly, so she doesn't have to stick around there the whole time. So we'll end up touching on those. And if you're using a tablet, remember that that'll help you the same as it would with somebody with a phone. You know, you could throw that tripod adapter on there, throw this tablet in here, and I'm gonna be bad here. I'm gonna tell Kelly to hold it again. I'm gonna show her. I'm gonna show how quick and easy it is to snap these in and out. So they actually handle snapping in and out very easy. So I'm back to my regular iPad, and I can just snap it back in and just push on the corners. And it's very simple, nice fit. You see, I already broke ours at some point. So this is the other cool thing, kind of stands by itself. Okay. So, you've seen I've touched on a lot of mobile photography as we go along here, and that's because it lends itself to being social media postings. So if you take it with your phone, it's very easy to upload things with that. And we're actually able to do that with any of our devices. So even if you take a photo with an iPad, take a video with that, it tends to make things just kind of fluid. You know, I'm not trying to send it to my computer. I'm not trying to upload anything. I can just post right on social media stuff. Since we have a couple extra minutes built into there before I touch on Adobe Spark, which I love, do we have any questions as we've gone along here? I know I'm talking fast.
Not yet.
No? I'm gonna feel bad pretty soon if we don't have any questions. You guys are making me think I'm gonna pretend like I did my job really well, but I'm gonna feel bad about it because I want some questions to be raised for some of these things.
Yeah, I think we're good right now.
All right, I'll
interrupt if we get into
yeah,
that.
that's it's fine. I trust you to interrupt if we have any questions on that. All right, I'm gonna show you guys. I was thinking about. I took this out initially. But we'll talk about Spark Post first, and actually get into that, and then I'll think about these other little tips and tricks. Now, I will tell you that this is my iPad that you guys are seeing, so that might be a little hint towards some of the tips or tricks that I have to help things. You know, so you can actually see that when I post on Facebook, maybe there's something that lets me do that in advance, like we talked about right off the bat. So you get a kind of idea of what the apps are that I actually use on a regular basis. You know, so that's kind of a piece on there. But let's get into one of my favorite tools. And that's going to be called Adobe Spark Post. And this is available to just about anybody out there, and it is free. You have to deal with this little part that has to deal with Adobe branding on it. You'll see that in a second. But honestly, for the easy use, I'm very happy with that. I'm willing to put their little thing on there. And if you see, I go into the photography folder. I have that set up on there. So there's a whole mess of tools and tricks and stuff I do in there. But I'm going to pick on one sitting right down here towards the left, and that's going to be Spark Post. I'm going to press that. And you see that I'm loading up Adobe Spark Post. And they just did an update, so they have some new tools in there. So I haven't opened it since the update, but we'll close it down. We'll talk about that later at some other later point when I talk about only Adobe Spark Post. But from this point, I'm actually able to select some templates and fonts for things that I want to do, or I can actually add my own photo. So let me add my own photo. So I'm going to press that plus, and I'm going to say, I'm going to go to my photo library. This is a photo I took. And let's go to all photos. And I'm going to say our lovely assistant here. I'm going to add that picture. And now I have a picture of Kelly up. Not totally done yet, because on the very bottom, I have a choice of where it's going to be going to. So I'm going to say, maybe I'm going to upload Kelly to Pinterest. So I'm going to press that. And you can see that it knows that portrait style Pinterest posts actually do better than landscape style. So one that is longer height-wise than it is wide. So I'm going to pick that one out there. I'm going to say done. And now I have my text editing. And it says double tap to edit text. So I'm going to double tap it and say, and Kelly's name on there. And that'll be good enough for now. And you'll see I'll be able to adjust this a little bit. So maybe I don't want to have that up so big. It looked kind of gaudy that way. But maybe down on the bottom right. And then maybe I want it over here. Now this would be really awkward because it's covering Kelly's face. But maybe I want to move it to the left. And I'm able to do that in there. I'm actually able to pick out a whole bunch of different fonts on there. And there's a selection. And maybe I like the modern font that looks like this. And we're able to go through that a little bit. I'm actually able to change my shapes around. So maybe it's a circle now. And I'm actually able to do that in there. I'm actually able to do some alignment in there. So I'm able to say center Kelly's text on it. I'm able to change my colors around, and it gives you suggestions for the palette wise. So we can actually adjust our colors a little bit, and I like that one a little bit more. I'm actually even able to mess with my style a little bit. You can see as I rotate this around, I'm actually going through different styles, and I kind of like that one.
Yeah. So
that one's kind of cool. You're gonna see in the bottom right, I have my my Adobe branding. Let's get you out there. All right. Sorry, it was bothering me the way it was blending in. So I'd have to change the color on the fonts a little bit, but that's not for today. And the last thing is I can mess with my opacity. So I'm actually able to fade it in or bring it up a little bit. Then say done. And now if I wanted to, I can add an animation on there, which is really cool. So this is kind of adding the video part to stagnant photo. And you'll see that actually how it looks on there.
Oh, cool.
It might be bringing in text and zoom, but it might be the text actually coming out. I like this one a lot. That's what I tend to do. But sometimes it's even the side across, and the motion kind of draws people's attention as well. So it's kind of cool in there. I'm gonna say done. And then if I remember right, I press the right corner, top right corner. And then I'm gonna share, we'll pretend that there's no animation in this. So I didn't do the video thing. So I'm gonna share the image. And then it's gonna bring up that regular share box. And you'll see this on just about everything for social media, being able to do this with it. So I can say, go to Instagram, go to Twitter right now, and then it gives me the further choices from there. Sometimes it might be just share the image, I'm saving it to my camera roll. And then if we look back, I have a new image for this. I can go to Pinterest now and say, hey, let's upload this picture of Kelly on there. So I'm going to go into Pinterest. So you can see that, of course, I have a lot of my own stuff on there. And we're going to do a photo pin and pick out the one of Kelly. And we add some text on there. And we might add a better description so that people aren't looking at this at random. I'm not going to actually upload Kelly, even though I couldn't just delete it, but she'd be looking at me really bad. So
it's gonna be Pinterest famous.
yes, you would be. Not, I don't know if for that picture, but yes, you would be Pinterest famous. So that's really Adobe Spark. It is that simple to use, and I love it because it lets me add text. And you may have seen on the McCormick Center's Pinterest page that we have some quotes, and people love quotes. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't only do that with a blank background to it. Some people do that, but I like to put an image that goes behind it. So we've actually done that, and it's very simple to be able to do. It takes me almost no time for my social media. And you can see, I mean, what were we talking about it for 5 minutes at the most of my time. And honestly, that's because I was talking about it. It would really take me a minute to be able to do and lay out and get a nice image up with an animation if I wanted it. And be able to do that with Adobe Spark Post. So we can definitely, I would strongly suggest this tool on there because it is not costing me anything to be able to do except for some branding by Adobe. So I'm actually able to share that with there. Any questions on my favorite tool? Okay, I'm going to move on to my probably second favorite tool. And this one you're going to see in the bottom right corner, and that is called Snapseed. This is a Google product now. They used to be their own independent company, but Google actually bought them. But their photo editing is, for a mobile device, is almost unmatched. There you might be, if you go to the App Store, there's going to be a million different photo editing things and different tools, filters, and that kind of stuff. Snapseed goes above and beyond all of those. I have not found a tool, and you don't see a whole lot of different photo editing pieces on here. So let's press on Snapseed, see what it can do. I'm going to bring that up. And now it's asking me, tap anywhere to open a photo. So I'm going to do that. And let's go to another photo of, I'll bring up Kelly May here again. And now there is a new thing where I can actually touch what I want to do. So I'm going to press on the bottom right and say, what would I do? What is the most common thing I should do to a photo? And what almost every editing tool has in it. Anybody? This one's almost the softball I'm throwing up to you guys, because you've done it before and you know how to do this. And almost every editing, including like stock photo editing apps, let you do this too. One of the top three things.
Crop or contrast? Crop? Yeah, cropping.
Yes. So we almost always crop. Unfortunately, not every photo is perfect on there. And somebody had an answer that did somebody pop up there? I saw it blink at me.
Oh, I typed it in.
So did you?
You can hear what I said.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Good idea. So I'm going to press the crop tool, and I'm going to say, I want to crop this photo. We're going to do it free right now, but I can actually pick one of the ratios out here, and this is where that guide kind of comes in place. So let's say I was going to a square on Instagram. I can actually tell it to go square, and then I can recrop it for that because I want to be in control. But let's go back to our format tool and say free. Now you'll see that it sticks with the square. So I like cutting off the tops of heads because it is an assumed piece. Your brain automatically puts in the rest of the person's head. So we don't need to actually have it on there, and it actually strengthens it out. But since I have my grid on, let's stick with some of those tools that we learned. Maybe we want to put Kelly's eyes on one of the grid lines. I'm paying attention to our text there a little bit, so you'll see how it actually works for me editing. But now I can actually just press the check mark here, and I have a new crop. And I'm improving my composition. Even if I couldn't on the field with the camera, I could just go in and crop it a little bit to improve my composition. Now, there is a ton of Snapseed ability in here. So besides cropping, I can press this and go into a whole mess of different things. So maybe my exposure wasn't right, and I'm sorry, I should have probably pointed that out. I'm pressing tune image. So I'm gonna press there, and then now I can slide up and down, make a selection, and I wanna adjust my brightness, and then I can just swipe left. Maybe I wanna make it darker. Maybe I'll make it lighter. Now, most of the time our camera picks out a pretty good exposure for this. So I'm maybe touching it up just a little bit, but there's more tools in here. And these are some of my favorites are shadows and highlights. So I'm gonna bring up Kelly's shadows a little bit, so maybe I won't have so much sticking out there. And I'm gonna bring down the highlights a little bit. And I'm really simply moving left and right on my touchpad. So now I have something that shows a little bit more of the shadow. Still there. It's kind of important to have shadows in certain places to show a depth of things, but I'm gonna reduce the highlights a little bit, so those overhead lights might not be blasting down on Kelly as much as originally thought. I'm gonna say check on this. I'm gonna say okay with that one. So now we have that. Now we're moving all the lines. I can selectively adjust things. So you see that down here. I like to do that occasionally. I'm saying maybe moving addition to this. Let's see, where did I press that at? There we go. So I'm gonna mess with the brightness a little bit. And that would just change the brightness on that one selected spot. So you can see I can bring it up if I wanted to a lot. And I'm sorry, I should have looked at my screen a little bit to see how you guys are seeing it. I'm looking at only the iPad. So you guys see it just a little bit darker than I do. So I'm gonna say check there, and then we got that done. There should be vignetting. So this is personal style for me. I tend to do vignetting towards things. So you see it look kind of crazy there, but I do a very slight vignetting on things. So lowering my brightness on the outside. And then below all of this stuff, we actually have some filters. So maybe we wanna make it look, HDR is pretty extreme. The HDR actually doesn't work on a lot of people pictures. So we're gonna go back there a little bit, but it probably looks great in black and white. Maybe not yet. So I'm gonna press on my colored filters on the bottom left. And I'm gonna adjust it for, probably yellow is gonna be tough on her. So you see how it overexposed her, because she's gonna be closer in yellow. I know I'm telling Kelly secrets here, but she's gonna be closer to that color, so it actually makes that color disappear. Oh. So that's putting that filter on there. But our wall, I think it's, if I remember correctly, might be orangish. No, maybe it's more green or blue. Okay, so it just shows some of the pigment difference in there, and we can easily play around with that. But neutral isn't that terrible. Yeah. So that neutral might have been the best one on there. We also have presets to be able to do if I want to make it look dark, if I want to do doing almost the same things that I'm doing naturally or automatically. Or I said automatically, this is automatic. The other way was manual. So I'm actually making the selections and doing almost the same things. And sorry about that. We usually don't have lawn people out there. So you might hear a little bit in the background from that. All right, so I actually don't like this one in color, in black and white, but there may be other tools in there. And there is some different filters, some crunch look. I'm trying to think, there should be a people one. There we go. So this is supposed to enhance Kelly's look. I tend not to do anything for social media because we're a professional organization. But you might have seen, like Snapchat has filters for things. So you can do bunny ears, do that kind of thing. That may be okay for us personally. But as an organization, I think about how Kelly would feel if I put bunny ears on her and shared that with the world. And that would not be a very good thing for me to do. So I do take that into mind before I'm putting up on social media. And that is the big question for me before I post something on social media is, would I like to have it done for myself? So I'm always thinking of that. And that's a consideration for you guys when you're talking about children as well, because they just don't have as much control. So would this child's parents like this? Would I like it if somebody did this with my child out there? So I tend not to do kind of crazy filters because I personally wouldn't like that myself. But yes, Snapseed, free. So that's something to look at there. It doesn't cost me anything to be able to do this. So definitely Snapseed would be a great tool. Now, my greatest tool that I have is, sorry, I'm gonna get you out of here, Kelly.
Okay.
I know. And you might have seen this when I brushed through it, but this is gonna be Google Photos. And Google Photos works out great. You may have noticed that I do teacher training on just Google products because Google and I love each other. I don't know how much they love me, but I do love the fact that Google gives me a lot of free tools, and I'm able to use them really well. So I do that training throughout the years. We've done it at Leadership Connection before if we needed to. But Google Photos is important for me because this lets me have a place to kind of back up my photos. So if I click here, this is synced across my devices. So whether I'm on my phone, whether I'm on my tablet, or whether I want to do a post, even on my computer, I can actually bring it up anywhere I'm at. So let's look at my phone photos. And we're going to be looking at a photo that I took on my phone, and it uploaded to the cloud. I can actually bring this up anywhere. Now this photo is not in my photos. So if you take a look here, that photo doesn't exist in there. So I'm able to actually bring it up in Google Photos and share it to my social media site. If I'm on my iPad and I decide that I want to share it to Facebook right now. So no commenting on any of my Facebook things. This will be my personal thing, but it goes through a preparing thing. So it takes a couple seconds. It is living out there in the cloud, but you see that it brings up the same kind of Facebook sharing ability. And then I can go and share this on there if I wanted to. And I could do it to, the different, I could tag it if I wanted. So I pretty much given the same tools as if I was in Facebook right now. So I'm going to cancel that. Now, I'm going to open this up on there. Why do you guys think I love this so much? Because obviously I don't have stronger editing tools. I'm not bringing up my camera. So any guesses as to why I would love this? This one might be harder. The other one I said was a softball, but this one might be a tougher one. No? Nothing out there? All right. So we might answer that question with the next thing I'm going to do. So if you look right across the top line here, you see the pictures that I took as we were talking about it. I'm going to close out Google Photos for a second and bring in my Photos app. And you can see those same photos on there. Now I'm going to pick out these and I'm going to delete them. I'll press the garbage can, delete my photos. And now they're all gone. So let me see, we have my photos there. And now I'm going to go back to my Google Photos app. Those same photos are still sitting there. Any guesses now why I would want this?
Stacy said cloud.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're very much so. Our devices may not have unlimited storage.
Mm-hmm.
Your iPhone might be a 16 gig iPhone. My iPad might be a 16 gig older iPad. But if I put them up in the cloud, now I just toss that out and I made that space back. And I have as much space as I have open right now. And I can go on and take 20 more photos of Kelly and then put those up on the cloud. And I have access to those still for social media. And I'm not worried about my space. Let me see if I can bring up like the amount of photos that I actually have on my phone. So obviously I'm probably taking more photos than the average person might be. But all right. So I do keep a couple photos around in there, but it is really, really not that many. So if we look at my photos, so this is my actual photo reel, and I've had this phone for, probably 4 months, and we're talking about probably a total of 7 photos on there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 photos. You less than I imagine. Actually, I should probably just look at the thing that said, hey, 6 photos. So that's a way to actually get a ton of space back. And I'm not worried about it with my phone anymore. Because if I even went to Google Photos on my phone, actually, it might have actually done it while we were talking. But it should have the Kelly's pictures right there. Yeah. So let me bring that up so you guys can actually see it. But that's Google Photos on my phone.
Nice.
And what you have to remember is I never plugged either device in or anything that went along with that. And I'm actually able to do almost the same, I'm sorry, I said almost. No, I'm actually able to do the exact same things that I could off my tablet. So taking on one device, I'll upload it on the other. Might be very convenient for you guys if you have maybe Google Photos for your center, for your program. And the teachers were taking pictures of the kids out in the playground, and you're able to take the photo from there because they're all synced up. They're going between the phone and this device. Maybe they have their phone with them. You have a tablet with it on there. And you're able to share those if you want to. You can make a post on them if you want to. You know, maybe we have a problem with little Jimmy having an actual restriction on being able to post his photos. You know, we have a situation with DCFS that we need to be mindful of, you know, and the teacher may not know every detail with that, but you may remain in control and you can actually do the posting with that. So we can actually do that. And then they're not taking up anything with their device. You know, once they can do that, they can delete the photo once it uploads. And, you know, you're able to grab them from the cloud. Your device doesn't have, you know, 80 photos of the playground with the same kind of thing. You're using burst mode out there. So you're actually able to share amongst your staff a lot easier. And a good example might be maybe they're out doing a nature walk today, you know, and you weren't there. And when they got back, the photos would be uploaded with your Wi-Fi automatically. You know, so it gives you really strong access. You know, once you start playing around with it a little bit, you start getting a really good idea. All right. I think that is most of the tips and tricks that I wanted to share with you guys. Any big questions before I go into wrap up on this?
Not yet. All right, guys, going once. Good.
Yeah.
Going twice. Good. All right.
All right, Kelly did a good countdown there for us, so we had a little piece on there. So we can actually see if you guys had any burning questions before I move on. What I'm going to do really quick before we wrap up.
Oh, wait.
Oh, okay.
We have a question.
Yes.
From Tony. She said, can you review the basic of how to get Google Photos set up on your phone?
Okay. Yes. So one part with Google Photos is you're going to need a Google account. That doesn't have to be a Gmail account, but it does have to be an account made with Google. So you probably, and this is what I suggest for most technology, is set that up initially on the desktop. It just kind of works easier. You know, if you're setting up a password and all that stuff, it's just easier for me. That's what I do. I type things out on my desktop before I move them off to mobile. But from there, it is actually really simple to do. So we would we go to like the App Store or the Google Play Store, you know, depending on your device, download the Google Photos thing. And then once it's installed, I'm going to go to Google Photos, and you're going to see on the top left, I can actually switch my accounts. So I have 3 accounts attached to this one. I'm really just signing in. So I'm saying Google Photos, this is my Gmail account. And so do you see which one is the McCormick Center's one? I actually have one for the McCormick Center. So you can actually see that this is the email account and that I'm going to sign in and use. And this is how I'm going to use it. And then it goes back and signs into there and shares it with that way. Very easy to set up. Then the last kind of part, the question they ask, and I'm going to go off of memory here. So this might be a little bit different than they have now. I mean, I'm not sure what the current one is, but it says it'll ask something like, do we want to upload the photos automatically? Mm-hmm. And I usually say yes, because that's what I want it to do. So when I open the app, it'll actually go through and upload and download the photos automatically. And that's how I can actually go about doing that. So Should have Kelly's photo somewhere in here. Oh, these are old ones. I'm on the wrong way.
I put a couple links in the chat for how to get to the Google Play Store for Android to download it, and also for iPhone, and the information page about Google Photos if you want to look at that.
Awesome. And we'll see about, if I remember correctly, the recording, we can actually do some saving of the chat as well.
Yeah.
So I can actually save the same links. If not, we'll include them in an email later on.
Tony also asked again, they said, I believe that my phone currently saves the pictures on the phone and Google Pics. How do you change that?
It's going to be a setting. It's going to default to that. And I think it's almost impossible to keep it from saving on their phone. So what I do is go through it and delete them.
Mm-hmm.
Once I know it's uploaded to Google Photos and I can pull it up on another device, I go and say, hey, I don't need this photo anymore. So we'll use this as an example. I won't delete it on you guys yet. But I'm going to say, maybe I want to delete this one, but it's up on Google Photos. So that's how I actually handle that, Tony. I don't actually have the ability to say, don't save to my phones anymore. They actually want to do that for a backup reason. Mm-hmm. So it's automatically going to your phone. All right.
She said thank you.
Oh, no problem. Sorry. Yeah, Kelly was kind of talking to a third person there. I should have just turned on your mic. But thanks for a great question. I mean, I'm sure other people had the same kind of questions. So, okay. I'm going to try to touch on the things that we touched on here, and hopefully I remember most of them. But probably one of the biggest things to remember, and that scares a lot of people, is that now we have like almost unlimited storage, and we're on a digital device. So I can take a lot of pictures and delete them. Not every picture I take is going to be stunning, stellar, best for social media. A lot of times I might take 3 pictures. I take 4 pictures. It might be that one. I don't know yet, but I'm not worried about what it's going to take to do it, because I can repeat things. I can try again. So my suggestion, and one of the biggest things, like I said, for the takeaway for this, is going to be to try taking different photos with your phone. There's no reason that you can't go and take the photo with your phone and just delete it if you don't like it. Or maybe it's awesome and you want to share it. And experiment a little bit with being able to do that in social media. And maybe a photo of the outside of your building is the one that's going to be getting more attraction, more attention, more engagement on Instagram. Maybe the photo of children is the one that might be better on your Facebook page. So it's going to be experimenting a little bit to find out what's working the best for you. And making sure that we can do that. And maybe it's going to Google Photos. So you'll see that my Google Photos, I got a ton of photos that I've never shared. There's the bunch of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm maybe not sharing that. But maybe it was so great that I did share it. So and being able to do that. So Kelly, no worries. I won't be sharing photos with you. With that, but it's linking those up, and that gives me that ability, and I don't have any of those photos on there, so being able to share those. But you play with some of those tools. So we talked about some of those tips, being able to adjust my exposure. It's a lot more powerful than you think. When you go in and actually start doing it and adjusting your exposure, you can change the mood, you can change the settings, you can make something look bright and happy. When maybe that wasn't a total mood that was there. So we can kind of adjust reality with that piece. Or we can capture reality the way it was. And for a lot of the programs, that's what you're going to actually want to do. Maybe it's just documenting things for an upcoming assessment. Maybe we're looking at that. So we can actually do those kind of bits and pull together photos for, maybe it's a binder that we're going to be showing off as a documentation. Maybe it's photos for the hallway. And I almost forgot with the Google Photos, one of the coolest things about them, they're going to give you an option to upload high-res photos, and they want you to pay for that. Don't pay for it, because your iPhone, even at its highest settings, and most Android phones, you cannot actually beat their standard photos. So you already are uploading the highest resolution you can. So do not pay for that. It's a wasted expense. I've never uploaded a photo to Google Photos that was at a lower res quality. Their standard is high enough to match almost every phone on there. And I can't believe I almost forgot that. So that's one of the cool things with that. Let me turn off the share with this. So we go back to our slides a little bit, or that video is fine. So my other thing is just make sure you're adjusting to your composition, and thinking about those rules when you're actually taking a photo. So turn on your grid, upload the right size because that is helpful. So whether it's a crop size or whether it's a pixel size, make sure we're uploading that. Use Google or use Adobe Spark Post. It is a wonderful free tool. We can't really beat that. Okay, we've run to the end of our time. Any questions before I sign us off?
I think we're all set. Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't see anything. Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming out to webinar. I know it's a busy Thursday towards the end of the school year, so we're mindful of that, and we want to thank you for attending that. And I'll personally thank Kelly for helping out and then being the subject here the whole time. Pretty tough for the first week, or I'm sorry, second week. I forgot we got into our second week of employment. So thank you.
Tony and Sue said thank you too.
Yep. Thank you guys. All right, I'm going to turn everybody off. Bye.
Bye.